Hi everyone, welcome back to Cottoverdi. My name's Annette and I still can't get over how beautiful these obelisks are. It's been one night, essentially. We put them up yesterday. That's in a previous video, so if you haven't seen that video, you can find it on my channel. It'll be the most recent video about putting up these obelisks. I think they are stunning, absolutely stunning. It's bringing a huge smile to my face. Suddenly, this area of the garden is feeling just more grown up, more mature, more structured, more designed. I don't desperately want a designed garden, but it just feels like it's got some grounding and some purpose, and they're just a lovely focal point. I can't wait till they're covered in roses. But today's video is all about, I can't take my eyes off them, it's really weird. Today's video is all about, I'm really sorry about the scaffolding noise, by the way. It's actually a Sunday. They're not supposed to be working today. Our neighbours are having some major renovation work done. Anyway, I can't avoid the scaffolding, drilling and banging and stuff like that. So I really hope you can't hear it. And my voice is carrying to my mic more loudly than the drilling and the scaffolding noise. But I need to film this because we need to get this bed planted today. So I'm not going to delay. I'm going to get on with it. We are planting up this bed with all the plants that I've chosen. Richard is insisting on doing all the planting himself, as long as I place the plants. So I'm going to place everything, he's going to plant them. We're going to add some general purpose plant food or multi-purpose plant food to the planting holes, and then we will mulch the whole area. And then hopefully next week I'll be planting the dahlias and the annuals in this bed as well. So what I'm going to do today is talk you through the plants I've chosen and their various attributes, and Richard is going to plant them, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end. At the base of each of the obelisks yesterday we planted a rose called Blush Noisette. It's absolutely gorgeous. It grows to 3 meters tall, it's about 10 foot, which is a relatively short climber. But the best thing about this rose is that it's extremely free flowering. It repeats well all summer long. It's got masses of blush pink, small semi-double blooms held in tight clusters. So it's just going to be full of roses, and it's got this rich musky clove fragrance. If you don't have something for it to climb up, apparently this can be grown as a small shrub as well, but I'm hoping that it's going to pretty much not cover completely the obelisk, but at least grow almost to the top by the time I've wound it round a few times, because I kind of want the obelisks to show as well. I don't want them to be absolutely covered. I think they're too beautiful to be smothered in plants. Then on the far side, where Richard's planting now, I've put a hydrangea called Laneth White. This grows to 1.2 meters tall by 1.2 meters wide, so it's kind of a very nice rounded shape. It's incredibly beautiful. It's a small deciduous shrub with dark green leaves, and it's got larger than average lace cap flowers. They've got flattened heads with white florets, and then the colour of the inner florets is completely dependent on the soil pH in your garden. So if you've got neutral or alkaline soil, it's going to be pink, and if you've got acidic soil, there'll be blue in the centre. But they are one of the most adaptable hydrangeas, and they will tolerate cold and exposed sites, coastal sites, and they don't even mind if the soil isn't great. And they like full sun or part shade. So where I've planted them on the northern side or northwestern side of these obelisks, near to the lower patio borders, they will get some shade. So that is not going to be full sun all day, especially once the roses have grown up the obelisk, but they will get morning and midday sun. So probably half a day's sun, and then dappled sun the rest of the day, depending on the time of the year. I've planted a eupatorium called Snowball. This is a Joe Pye weed. It grows to 1.2 meters tall, 70 centimeters wide. Over time, it's going to establish really strong clumps. These clumps will have large, rounded flower heads that burst into bloom at the top of tall stems. So all the white colour will be at the very top of the stems. They're going to flower between August and September. I have found eupatorium sometimes needs staking in my garden. Again, this is going to be happy in damp soil. It really likes clay. We have clay in our garden, so I'm hoping that I will have some very strong clumps here in the near future, and they're going to sort of flower behind the hydrangeas that I've got in the patio bed. I think they're going to be really striking. They like full sun, part shade, dappled shade, which is why they're kind of tucked behind the obelisks, and so they will get shade from the obelisks. I think it's a really good plant to have in that spot. Another blue plant that I planted is an Anchusa called Anchusa Loddon Royalist. This is an Italian borage that I also planted in the patio bed, so I'm kind of continuing the theme here with trying to make sure I've got similar plants because these two flower beds are so close together. So Anchusa forms clumps of mid-green foliage and has these vivid bright blue flowers on long hairy stems, and they're in flower now. So they flower between May and July, and they are flowering. I've got one plant that doesn't seem to have any foliage. I think the slugs and snails got to it. So even though it grows to 90 centimetres tall, that's about 3 foot, it doesn't generally need staking. Now it does like full sun, and where I positioned it close to the sleepers at the edge of the border, it should get sun for the majority of the day. It won't get sun in the afternoon once the Joe Pye weed and the salvia have grown, but I think it's going to be fine and happy there. And as I said, I think it's going to just tie in, mirror, continue the blue theme from the patio border, and I think that's quite important. At the base of the obelisks, I have planted the remainder of my pink gypsophila. This grows to 1 metre tall and 50 centimetres wide. It's got tiny wafty pink flowers, just like every gypsophila. I didn't have quite enough plants to be able to plant them all the way around, but I'm hoping over the years again I'll be able to divide that. I just seem to be short for some reason. I may have planted them under the cherry tree instead of white ones, so I've only got a few pink ones here, which is a shame. Then in between the two obelisks, on either side of the purple lilac, I've planted something called Caryopteris White Surprise. This is a bluebeard, and it'll grow 1 metre tall by 1 metre wide, so it's really going to fill that gap between the lilac and the obelisks. I am going to keep the lilac pruned so that it's more top heavy and there's space at the bottom, so I'm not worried about the lilac shrouding out the Caryopteris. The best thing about this Caryopteris is it's got almost luminous variegated foliage. It's silvery green edged with creamy white. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a relative of the mint, so the foliage is aromatic. And between July and October, it has whirls of fluffy cloud-like blooms, and they emerge as this intense blue, and then over time they'll soften to a more lilac-y colour. Once it's mature, it's going to be very drought tolerant, so that's a good thing to have in your garden if you've got a spot that is going to dry out a lot. And it does prefer a south or west facing aspect, and it's fully hardy. It's fully hardy here in the UK down to about -10 degrees. And then in front of the obelisks on the south side, I've planted something that likes full sun. So I've planted a spirea called Gempii. So Spirea Gempii grows to 1 metre tall by about 60 centimetres wide. So it's not huge. And it's got these charming clusters of pink white flowers between June and September. And I say it's pink and white because some of the flowers are pink, some of them are white, and some of them are mixed pink and white, and it's got nothing to do with soil type or anything like that. It just, the plant decides itself what kind of combination it's going to have. It's extremely low maintenance, but deadheading it regularly is going to improve the flowering and obviously the appearance. If you want to encourage growth, then prune in spring. Spirea Gempii is fully hardy here in the UK for me. It is best in consistently moist soil and in full sun, but it will tolerate part shade. So I have planted it in full sun, and this bed, we can water it. We've got irrigation if we need it. So right at the front of the bed, I've surrounded these with ranunculus, but I've got a very low growing Veronica called Shirley Blue. So this grows to 25 centimetres high. That's not even a foot, by 30 centimetres wide. Veronica is a speedwell, and this one has erect spires of really vivid blue saucer shaped flowers between May and July. And it forms these low tufts. It's matte forming, it's great for a sunny border, and I'm hoping over time I'm just going to be able to divide that. So that's one of the plants where I've economised, and I've only bought 3, and then I will just I'll propagate it over the years to spread along the front a bit. I think it'll be really pretty. Right in front of the lilac, I've also planted some poppies. This is a papaver called Ruffled Patty. It's an oriental poppy that will grow to 75 centimetres tall and 50 centimetres wide. It flowers between May and July. I'm not convinced I'm going to get flowers this year because my plants came as small plugs and I've been growing them on, and they're quite tiny and they do look like they just need to get in the ground. But this poppy, Ruffled Patty, is an unusual lavender streaked plum coloured poppy, and it's got these fringed doubled petals that are twisted, so it's really dramatic and quite eye-catching. And I think what's really important about poppies is that you have something to cover the empty space once they've flowered. So I've planted them in amongst some alliums. I can't remember which alliums these are, but they may be spherocephalons, so they may be the drumstick alliums that I've planted them amongst. But I'm also going to have some dahlias that I'm going to plant around these. So once the poppies are over, I'll be able to cover that foliage with dahlias. I've also planted some Scabiosa Fama Blue. The Fama Scabiosa have really large, sort of more flattened flower heads, and I think the blue is very striking. They're going to grow to 60 centimetres tall, so about 2 foot by 45 wide. So I've planted them quite close together, and I think they're going to be another lovely pop of blue. They'll flower between June and September, and I think it's just going to tie everything in the border. So just between the Caryopteris and the patio bed, I've placed a Salvia amistad. Now I've only placed one on each side because in my experience these grow really big and I only really need one plant. I'm really hoping I can get these to go through the winter because I very often lose my Salvia amistad, but I am going to protect these within an inch of their lives and hopefully they'll come back every year. I'm absolutely determined to get these to survive. So Salvia amistad is going to grow to 1.2 metres tall and 50 centimetres wide, so it's going to be slightly taller than the Caryopteris, and I think the purple, really deep intense purple flowers of the amistad are going to complement the bluey lilac colours of the Caryopteris. If you deadhead the Salvia amistad regularly, then it will keep flowering. It flowers between July and October. It's such a dramatic plant that I couldn't not have it in this bed with the pinks, the whites and the blues. I just had to have Salvia amistad. The Thalictrum I've planted is called Thalictrum delavei. This is a meadow rue that grows to 1.2 metres tall, 60 centimetres wide. And it's got fluffy sprays of lilac flowers on upright dark purple stems, and I think it looks really beautiful because it's light and airy. It's a perfect perennial towards the back of a border. It contrasts well with darker leaved plants. It likes light shade and a humus-rich soil, so we do have very good soil in this bed, and where I've positioned them I do think they're going to get some shade. I've also planted 3 delphiniums called Excalibur Pink. I wanted to have something towards the end of the border where it kind of joins up with the remainder of the border that doesn't have the obelisks in it, and I've chosen these pink ones because I think they'll go nicely with the Blush Noisette Roses, but also with everything else that I've got going on in the border. Delphiniums don't do particularly well in my garden. I do find that slugs and snails tend to get them, but I've been protecting these and keeping them up out of harm's way, but they need to go in the ground now, and I'm just going to have to come out at night and hunt for slugs and snails to make sure they don't get eaten. But these delphiniums are going to have spikes of purple pink flowers with a white bee, and they like full sun. Richard has planted everything. What a wonderful husband. I mean, it's his flower bed too. But he's planted everything. He wanted to do that. I think he likes getting praise in the comments section. So if you want to tell Richard how wonderful he is, then, you know, do let him know, because he really enjoys reading about it. I'm joking. Anyway, we've planted everything. I've given it all a really good water. It's going to be hot for the next few days. So everything needs watering in, even if you think it's going to rain. And now we're we're mulching the bed. So I want to get everything mulched. This really helps to suppress weeds, but it does help to retain moisture, and it improves the structure of the soil. We use well-rotted farmyard manure. There's a link to that in the description below if you're interested, but that's what we use to mulch. We don't use bark, because I really want to improve the structure. I find that the well-rotted manure is very beneficial for that. So that's what we use. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed this video today. If you have, do give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this and you want to see how this flower bed grows through the seasons, then subscribe to my channel. I'll be filming loads more over the coming seasons and years. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.